She had only $2 left to her name and no place to sleep that night. But when a well-dressed stranger was short on bus fare, she didn't hesitate. What she didn't know was that her quiet act of kindness would set off a chain of events that would not only change her life forever, but turn her from a homeless girl into a symbol of hope for thousands. The city woke up slowly, like a tired giant stretching its arms. It was early morning, and cold wind moved through the narrow streets. The sun hadn't come up yet, and the streetlights blinked like they were deciding whether to stay on or give up. In the middle of this sleepy, busy world was a girl named Tasha. She was just 17 years old, but her eyes looked older. They had seen too much pain, too much disappointment, and too many broken promises. Tasha had been on her own for almost a year now. She had no parents to call, no brothers or sisters to lean on, and no place that felt like home. When she was just a little girl, her mother had left one night and never returned. Her father had gone to jail soon after. From that point, she had moved from one foster home to another. Some homes were okay, but others were cruel. In her last foster house, things had gotten so bad that she had to run away. It was either escape or lose herself completely. Now she lived where she could. Some nights she got a bed at a crowded youth shelter. But the shelter had more kids than beds, so many nights she didn't make the list. When that happened, she slept under a bridge near the bus station or behind the library where there was a hidden corner that felt safe enough. She kept her backpack close to her chest and used her hoodie as a pillow. It wasn't comfortable and it wasn't warm, but it was the best she could manage. Even with all of this, Tasha tried hard not to give up. She believed, somewhere deep inside, that life could be better. She carried a small torn notebook everywhere she went. It had her name written in faded marker on the front. Inside, she wrote dreams. Some pages had quotes she copied from books in the library. Others had 2 lists: find part-time job, ask shelter for new shoes, look for old textbooks. The notebook was her secret world, her way of reminding herself that she mattered. Every morning Tasha woke up before the sky turned blue. She would clean herself in the library bathroom if it was open, or at a fast food place where she used to wash dishes in exchange for leftover fries. She tied her hair back, put on her worn-out sneakers, and zipped up her hoodie. Then she would walk to the bus stop and take the city bus to different neighborhoods, hoping to find day work, maybe sweeping a shop, lifting boxes, or folding flyers. If she was lucky, she'd make $10 or $15. That money went toward small meals, bus fare, and sometimes a fresh pair of socks. People passed by her every day without seeing her. She had learned how to blend in, how to keep her head low and not draw attention. She knew the streets well and understood which corners were safe and which ones to avoid. She didn't beg or ask for handouts. She kept her pride like it was the last thing she owned, and in some ways it was. She had big dreams, though she never spoke them out loud. She wanted to finish high school. She had only 1 semester left, but dropping out had been necessary when she lost her last place to stay. After high school, she wanted to go to college, maybe study writing or social work. She imagined working in an office, drinking coffee from her own mug, smiling with coworkers, and wearing clean clothes. It felt like a miracle waiting on the other side of a mountain. That morning, as the sky started to brighten with the softest shade of orange, Tasha stood at the bus stop. She held her backpack in front of her and counted the coins in her pocket. She had just enough for a one-way ride. Her stomach growled, but she ignored it. She had gotten good at that. Hunger had become a quiet companion. She no longer argued. With today, she planned to ask a local hair salon if they needed help sweeping. Sometimes the owner gave her $5 and let her keep the loose change customers left behind. When the bus arrived, Tasha stepped on, nodded at the driver, and dropped her coins into the machine. She moved to the back and sat by the window. The seat was cold, but she liked the view. She liked watching the city wake up the shop owners raising metal shutters, the old women sweeping porches, the dogs dragging sleepy owners behind them on walks. It gave her a strange kind of comfort. At the next stop, a man climbed on. He was tall and wearing a clean black coat. His shoes were polished, and his hands looked like they belonged to someone important. He reached into his pocket, then frowned. His hand searched his other pocket, then the inside of his coat. The driver looked impatient. "You got fare or not?" the driver asked. The man looked embarrassed. "I'm sorry," he said. "I think I left my wallet in my car. Just parked." "A few blocks away. Can I pay double tomorrow?" "No fare, no ride," the driver said, not unkindly, but firmly. The bus was quiet. Some people stared, others turned away. "What?" The man stood frozen, unsure what to do. Without thinking too much, Tasha stood up and walked toward the front. She reached into her hoodie pocket and took out $2. They were the only money she had left. She handed them to the driver. "For him," she said. The driver looked at her, then at the man. He shrugged and let the man board. The man looked at Tasha with surprise, then gratitude. "Thank you," he said softly. "That was very kind." Tasha just nodded and went back to her seat. She didn't want to talk. She didn't want attention. She just wanted to sit quietly and forget that now she had no money at all. The man sat across from her and watched her for a moment. She could feel his eyes, but didn't look up. Finally, he said, "That was really generous of you. I'd like to pay you back." "No need," she replied quietly. "At least let me give you something." "I said no," she said again, her voice firmer this time. He didn't ask again. Instead, he said, "I'm William. What's your name?" "Tasha," she replied, still not meeting his eyes. "It's nice to meet you, Tasha. You have a good heart." Tasha said nothing. Compliments made her uncomfortable. They didn't feel real. Too many people had said nice things before doing something cruel. The rest of the ride passed in silence. William didn't try to talk anymore, and Tasha was glad for that. When her stop came, she stood up quickly. "Take care," he said as she passed. She didn't answer. She just walked off the bus and disappeared into the crowd. She didn't know that. William kept watching until she was out of sight. She didn't know that he sat there thinking about the girl in the hoodie with the tired eyes. And she definitely didn't know that the man whose fare she had paid was a CEO worth millions to her. He was just a stranger who needed help, and she had helped him. That was all later that night. Tasha sat under the bridge with her notebook on her lap. She wrote a new quote she had read at the library that day. "Kindness is the language which the deaf can hear and the blind can see." Mark Twain. She stared at the words and smiled just a little. Tomorrow would come, just like always. She would be cold again. She would be hungry again. She would walk the city and hope someone needed help. But tonight, she didn't feel invisible. Tonight, she had done something kind, and even if it didn't change the world, it had changed something inside her. She had no idea how much that small moment would change her life, but fate had already noticed her. And for the first time in a long time, something good was quietly on its way. The morning after she gave away her last $2, Tasha woke up with a shiver. Her hoodie had soaked up the cold from the concrete, and her fingers were stiff like little icicles. The sky above the bridge was a dull gray, and fog curled around. The city like a blanket that didn't warm anything. Tasha slowly sat up, rubbing her hands together to get the blood moving. Her stomach growled loudly. She hadn't eaten anything since a half sandwich from the shelter 2 nights ago. She didn't regret giving away the money. Something about that man's face had told her he wasn't pretending. He looked lost for a moment, like someone who wasn't used to needing help, reminded her of herself how once she had believed that people would always be there when things got hard. That belief had faded, but something inside her still hoped it was true, at least for someone else. So she gave what she had. She didn't expect anything back. Her shoes were wet from last night's rain. And they squished when she walked toward the library. She went in through the side door when the janitor opened it early for staff. Didn't know her name, but he recognized her face and never stopped her from coming in early. She dried her shoes under the hand dryer in the bathroom, washed her face, combed her hair, and smiled at herself in the mirror. "Still here?" she whispered to her reflection. After warming up, she went to the front desk and helped the librarian shelve some returned books. It wasn't a real job. But the librarian sometimes gave her snacks from her lunch bag or let her sit behind the counter when the library got crowded. Books were Tasha's escape. She could travel to other worlds, live other lives, and forget. For a little while that she had no home to return to. That day, she checked out a book about strong women in history. She always looked for stories of survivors. By noon, the city had woken up fully. Cars honked, children laughed as they walked to school, and people rushed to work holding coffee cups and phones. Tasha walked along the busy sidewalks with her backpack bouncing against her side. Her shoes had dried but were stiff, and a small blister formed on her heel. Still, she kept walking. She stopped at the barber shop to ask if they needed help sweeping, but they had already let someone else do it. Then she walked to the gas station to see if they needed shelves stocked. The cashier said no. She finally sat on a bench near the bus stop. Her feet hurt. Her stomach hurt more. But she didn't cry. She had learned not to cry in public. Instead, she opened her notebook and wrote down what she had done that morning. She wrote, "Didn't eat, no work, but I'm still trying." Under that, she added another quote from the library book, "If you're going through hell, keep going." Winston Churchill, as she sat there, watching the buses come and go, her eyes caught a familiar figure. The man from yesterday, the one she had paid for, was standing near the corner across the street. He wore the same long coat, but today, he looked more focused. His eyes scanned the bus stop area like he was searching for someone. Tasha's heart beat a little faster, but she didn't move. She didn't think he would recognize her without her hoodie pulled up. Then, suddenly he turned and spotted her. He crossed the street quickly but carefully. He had a determined walk like he had been waiting to see her again. Tasha stayed seated, unsure if she should run or stay. Something about his eyes told her it was okay. "Hey," he said when he reached her. "It's you. I've been looking for you." Tasha looked up at him. "Why? You helped me," he said. "Yesterday. You didn't have to. I couldn't." "Stop thinking about it. Wanted to find you and thank you properly." Tasha blinked. "You already said thank you." "I know," he said with a small smile. "But I think you deserve more than that." Tasha tilted her head. "What do you mean, let me buy you lunch?" he said. "Anywhere you want. My treat." "I'm not looking for a handout," she said quickly, her voice guarded. "I know," he replied. "That's why I'm offering, not forcing. I just want to return the kindness you gave me. One meal. That's all." Tasha's stomach growled. Loudly at that moment, she looked away embarrassed. The man chuckled softly. "Come on," he said. "There's a diner 2 blocks from here. Best pancakes in the city." After a moment, she nodded. "Okay, just lunch." They walked quietly at first. He didn't ask questions, and she didn't offer any. When they reached the diner, the waitress greeted the man like she knew him. "Back again, Mr. Carter?" she said with a smile. Tasha looked at him. He nodded and replied, just grabbing a bite with a new friend. That day sat in a booth by the window. Tasha felt awkward. She hadn't sat in a real restaurant in months. Her eyes darted around nervously as she held her backpack close to her chest. The waitress came back with menus, but Mr. Carter waved them away. "We'll have 2 pancake specials, eggs, and orange juice," he said. Tasha looked at him. "You didn't ask what I want," he smiled. "I figured you looked like someone who needed a warm breakfast." She looked at him more closely now. His suit was expensive. His watch looked like it cost more than everything she had ever owned. Was starting to realize this man wasn't ordinary. "What do you do?" she asked. He looked at her carefully, like deciding how much to share. "I run a tech company," he said. Tasha raised an eyebrow. "You're like a boss?" He laughed. "Something like that. You don't look like someone who rides." "The bus I usually don't," he admitted. "But my car broke down yesterday, and I had a meeting I couldn't miss." "Oh," she said softly. "So why look for me?" "Because no one helps strangers anymore," he said. "At least, not without wanting something. And you did. That meant something to me." Their food arrived. Tasha stared at the pancakes like they were treasure. She hadn't had hot food in days. She ate slowly at first, but soon her hunger took over. Mr. Carter didn't rush her, just watched her with quiet interest. After a while, he asked, "Can I ask you something?" Tasha nodded. Double quotes, "Where do you stay?" She looked down. Different places. Sometimes the shelter. Sometimes outside. He nodded. Not with pity, but understanding. "How long?" "Almost a year," she said, her voice low. "It's not so bad once you get used to it. It should never be something to get used." "Two," he said softly. They sat in silence for a few minutes. "I want to help you," he said at last. Tasha froze. "Why?" "Because you helped me, and because I can." Tasha shook her head. "People say that, then they change their minds." "I won't," he said. "Take this." He handed her a business card. It had his name, William Carter, CEO. Carter Tech Solutions. Phone number was printed under it. "If you ever need anything, food, a place to stay, a job, call me. I'm serious." She took the card, but her hand trembled. "What if I lose it?" He smiled and pulled out another. "Take two." She laughed for the first time in a long time. It felt strange and warm. They talked a bit more. Tasha told him about school, about her dreams, about how she wanted to study writing and maybe help kids like herself one day. William listened. Really? Listened and didn't interrupt. When lunch was over, they walked back toward the bus stop. "Promise me something," he said. "What?" "Don't give up." Tasha looked at him. "I haven't yet." He nodded. "Good. You're stronger than most people I know." She smiled faintly and watched as he walked away. She didn't know it yet, but her life had just turned a corner. The world hadn't changed overnight, but a seed had been planted. A small, powerful seed of hope. She tucked both business cards into the front page of her notebook that night. As she curled up under her bridge spot again, she stared at the cards and the leftover pancake wrapped in a napkin. Maybe people like William were rare. But maybe, just maybe, one moment of kindness really could ripple out like waves in a pond. She closed her eyes and whispered the words she had written so many times, still here. And now, for the first time in a long time, she added something new in her notebook. "Someone saw me today." The week passed slowly for Tasha. Every day felt long, and every night felt even longer. She still had the same routine, waking up early under the bridge, or if lucky, in the shelter, cleaning up in public bathrooms, searching for work and spending hours in the library. But even though nothing had changed around her, something had shifted inside. There was a quiet hope sitting in her heart, like a soft light refusing to go out. And that light had a name, William Carter. She hadn't seen him again since the day they ate pancakes together. But she kept his business card like a treasure. Sometimes she took it out just to look at it. His name was printed in bold letters. William Carter, CEO, Carter Tech Solutions. The number on it was memorized in her head. Still, she hadn't called. Maybe it was fear. Maybe it was pride. Or maybe she just didn't believe people like him really meant what they said. People often offered help in the moment, but disappeared. When it really mattered, Tasha knew this. She had lived this. But something about him felt different. He hadn't looked at her like she was a problem. He looked at her like she was a person. That feeling stayed with her. One cold night, she returned to the spot under the bridge, only to find someone else had taken it. Two older men were already lying there, wrapped in thick blankets. One of them looked at her and said, "Find somewhere else, girl. We were here first." She didn't argue. She walked away into the dark, carrying her bag, too tired to cry. She found an empty bench in a quiet park. It wasn't safe, but her body was too sore to keep moving. She curled up, using her hoodie to cover her face, hoping she'd make it through the night without anyone bothering her. But someone did. Around midnight, a group of boys came into the park laughing loudly. Tasha didn't move at first, hoping they'd just pass by, but one of them noticed her. "Hey, who's that on the bench?" A voice called out. Tasha sat up quickly. "I'm just resting. I'm leaving." One of the boys walked closer. "Nah, it's late." "What's a girl like? You doing out here alone?" She grabbed her backpack and stood. "I said I'm leaving." Another boy stepped in front of her. You don't gotta go. We were just gonna hang out. Tasha's heart started pounding. Let me pass. The first boy reached for her bag. Hey, relax. We're just talking. But Tasha didn't wait. She pushed past them and started running. She didn't stop until she reached a gas station that was still open. She rushed inside, breathing hard, her heart still racing. The man behind the counter gave her a strange look, but said nothing. She sat on the floor near the drinks cooler. Hugging her knees, she was tired. Not just tired in her body, but tired in her soul. And suddenly, she remembered William's words from the diner. If you ever need anything, food, a place to stay, a job, call me. I'm serious. Her fingers reached into her pocket and pulled out the card. She stared at it. Maybe he had only said those things to be polite. Maybe he'd forgotten her by now. But right now she had nothing. And no one. She stood up and walked to the payphone outside the gas station. She fed in the coins she had left and dialed the number with shaky fingers. It rang once, twice. Then someone answered. Carter Tech Solutions. This is Angela speaking. How may I help you? Tasha swallowed. Hi. My name's Tasha. I'm looking for Mr. Carter. He gave me his card. There was a pause. Mr. Carter? May I ask what this is regarding? He told me I could call if I ever needed help. I met him on the bus last week. Another pause. Please hold. Tasha held the phone tightly. Her heart pounded. She almost hung up, thinking maybe this was a mistake. But then she heard a calm, familiar voice. Tasha. It was him. She couldn't believe it. Yes, she whispered. It's me. I'm so glad you called. Are you okay? She hesitated. No, not really. Where are you? She told him the name of the gas station. Stay there, he said. Don't go anywhere. I'll be there in 15 minutes. 15 minutes. Felt like forever. She waited near the door, watching every car that passed. She kept wondering if he'd really come, or if he'd forget, or if someone else would show up. But exactly 16 minutes later, a black car pulled up, and William. Carter stepped out, wearing a dark coat and concerned eyes. He rushed toward her. Are you all right? She nodded, but her eyes filled with tears. He didn't ask too many questions. He simply opened the car door and said, Come on, let's get you warm. Tasha hesitated for a second. She had never gotten into a stranger's car before. But this didn't feel dangerous. It felt safe. She climbed in. He took her to a hotel, not a fancy one, but clean and warm. He paid for 3 nights in advance, gave her a key card, and handed her a small bag of food he had picked up on the way. I'll come by tomorrow, he said gently. You rest tonight. Tasha sat on the bed after he left, staring at the clean sheets and fluffy pillow. It didn't feel real. She showered for the first time in days, then sat down and ate the sandwich and fruit he had given her. Before falling asleep, she whispered to herself, he came back. The next morning, William returned with a woman named Sandra, a social worker who worked with his company's foundation. She was kind, gentle, and full of questions, but not the kind that made Tasha uncomfortable. She asked about where she had been staying, what kind of help she needed, and if she wanted to return to school. Tasha found herself saying yes more than she expected. Yes, she wanted to go back to school. Yes, she wanted to get a job. Yes, she wanted help. It felt scary to admit those things, but it also felt good. That week, everything started changing. Sandra found her a long-term place at a youth center where she had her own bed, 3 meals a day, and access to counseling. She was enrolled back in high school to finish her final semester. William arranged for her to work part-time at his company's office, helping in the mailroom. Her first day at the office was terrifying. She wore clean clothes Sandra had helped her buy from a thrift store. Her shoes didn't pinch anymore, and her hair was braided neatly. She still looked nervous, but she held her head high. People smiled at her as she walked through the halls. No one knew her story, and she didn't offer it. She just wanted a chance to work hard and feel normal. One afternoon, as she was sorting envelopes, William walked by. He stopped and gave her a nod and a proud smile. "You doing okay?" he asked. She smiled back. Better than ever. Weeks passed, and her life kept improving. She started making friends at school again. She joined a writing club and submitted a short story about a girl who lived under a bridge but never gave up. Her teachers praised her work and encouraged her to apply for college. One day during lunch at the office, William's daughter Maya visited with her mother. They were kind and warm, and Maya sat next to Tasha like they were already friends. William's wife Elaine invited Tasha over for dinner that weekend. That Saturday, Tasha walked into the Carter home nervous and shy. But the house was filled with laughter, the smell of home-cooked food, and the kind of energy Tasha had never felt before, not in any foster home, not anywhere yet. It felt like what a real home should feel like. Elaine gave her a plate of food and a hug. Maya showed her around the house. William pulled her aside and said, "We're proud of you." Tasha didn't know what to say. No one had ever said those words to her. That night, as she lay in her bed at the youth center, she opened her notebook. She added a new entry. "Today, I felt like I belonged somewhere. Maybe this is what healing feels like." She no longer felt like a lost girl hiding from the world. She was becoming someone stronger, someone seen, someone loved. She still had challenges ahead. Trauma didn't disappear in a day. Fear still visited her sometimes in her sleep. But now she wasn't fighting alone. She had people, real people, stood beside her. And it had all started with $2 and a simple choice to help a stranger. What Tasha didn't know yet was that William Carter had been telling her story to his foundation team. He believed others like her needed a path, a hand, a chance. And soon that belief would change even more lives. But for now, all that mattered was this. She was safe. She was growing. She was finally, truly becoming herself, and the world was about to witness it. After the evening at the Carter family home, Tasha felt something she had never felt before, a sense of belonging. The kindness, the warmth, and the laughter stayed with her like a soft light guiding her through dark days. She began to realize that her life could be different, that she could dream of a future not defined by fear or hunger, but by hope and possibilities. The youth center where she now stayed felt more like a real home each day. The small bed was comfortable and the meals were nourishing. But it was the people there who made the biggest difference. The counselors listened without judgment. The other young people shared their stories, and for the first time, Tasha saw she wasn't alone. She worked hard at school, focusing on every lesson, determined to catch up after years of missing classes. The teachers noticed her effort and encouraged her. She started to believe she could graduate. The small writing club became her safe space. She wrote stories and poems, pouring out her feelings onto the pages. Writing was no longer just a hobby. It became a way for her to heal and understand herself. At Carter Tech Solutions, her job in the mailroom introduced her to a world she had only seen from afar. The office was bright, filled with people who smiled and said hello. William and his team treated her with respect. She wasn't just the girl who had once paid a stranger's bus fare. She was Tasha, a young woman with a future. One afternoon, William invited Tasha to attend a meeting with his foundation's team. They were planning a new program to help homeless youth find education and jobs. He asked her to share her story. At first, she was nervous. Speaking in front of people was terrifying. But William's encouraging smile gave her courage. When she told her story about the hardships she had faced and the small kindness that changed everything, the room grew quiet. Then came applause. Tasha realized her experience could inspire change, that her voice mattered. The foundation quickly offered her a scholarship to attend community college. They also connected her with a mentor, a woman named Jasmine, who helped her navigate school, work, and personal challenges. Jasmine became like a big sister, teaching Tasha how to balance responsibilities and believe in herself. Over the months, Tasha's confidence grew. She started dressing better, taking care of her hair, and smiling more. She still had moments of doubt, and sometimes memories of the streets would haunt her dreams. But she was learning to face those fears instead. of running from them. Her relationship with William and his family deepened too. They invited her to family dinners, holiday celebrations, and weekend outings. Maya, William's daughter, became a close friend. They laughed together, studied together, and sometimes just sat quietly, enjoying each other's company. One day, William surprised Tasha with a tour of Carter Tech's Innovation Lab. The lab was filled with the latest technology, computers, gadgets, and creative minds working on new ideas. For Tasha, who had never imagined a future in tech, it was a revelation. William said, "You have a sharp mind, Tasha. I want you too. Think about a career here. We can support your education, and maybe someday you'll lead a project of your own." Tasha felt a swell of pride and excitement. The thought of building something, creating something that could help others, it was powerful. But the journey wasn't without obstacles. One night, she received a phone call from a social worker at the shelter she once stayed at. A young girl there reminded her of herself, scared, alone, and unsure of the future. Tasha knew she wanted to help. She began volunteering at the shelter. On weekends, sharing her story and encouraging other young people to keep hope alive, she organized workshops on writing, job applications, and self-care. Her presence was a beacon for many who thought their past defined their future. Through this work, Tasha realized how many people slipped through the cracks. She saw the need for better programs, for more understanding from society, and for real opportunities. Her life was changing, but she never forgot where she came from. The streets, the hunger, the cold nights, all of it was part of her story. It gave her strength and a deep desire to make a difference. At college, Tasha excelled. She studied hard, balancing classes, work, and volunteering. Her professors saw her potential and encouraged her to apply for internships and scholarships. She received awards for her essays on social justice and resilience. William continued to support her, not just financially, but as a mentor and friend. He introduced her to leaders in the business and nonprofit world, helping her build connections that would open doors. One evening, after a long day of classes and work, Tasha sat on the rooftop of the youth center, looking at the city lights. She thought about the path she had traveled, from the bus fare she paid to a stranger, to the CEO who changed her life, to the young woman who was now shaping her own future. She knew the journey wasn't over. There'd be challenges, ahead, doubts, setbacks, and fears. But she also knew she wasn't alone. She had people who believed in her, opportunities to grow, a mission to help others. The small act of kindness she showed on the bus had created a ripple effect. It changed one life, and through her, it would change many more. Tasha smiled, feeling a deep peace. She was no longer just surviving. She was living and ready to build a future filled with hope, courage, and love. Tasha's life had changed in ways she could never have imagined. From the cold streets and lonely nights, to classrooms, offices, and warm homes, she had made a journey filled with hope, hard work, the kindness of strangers turned friends. But even as her world brightened, she knew her story was far from over. College had become a new chapter full of challenges and triumphs. Each morning she woke up early, sometimes before dawn, preparing for classes, internships, and volunteer work. Her days were packed, but she never complained. Instead, she felt a deep sense of purpose. Every step she took was a step away from her past and toward a future she was building herself. At Carter Tech Solutions, she moved beyond the mailroom and started working on projects that matched her interests: technology, social impact, and innovation. William had helped her find a place on a team developing software for educational programs for disadvantaged youth. The work was meaningful. She saw how technology could open doors, connect people, and create chances where none seemed to exist. Her mentor, Jasmine, remained a steady guide. Jasmine reminded her to take care of herself, to rest when needed, and to celebrate every achievement, no matter how small. Through Jasmine, Tasha learned the importance of balance and self-love, lessons she had never received before. Outside of school and work, Tasha grew closer to William and his family. The Carters had become like a second family. They celebrated birthdays, holidays, and small victories together. Tasha helped Maya with her homework, and sometimes they just watched movies or cooked dinner. These moments, simple and ordinary, meant everything to Tasha. They showed her what love and family felt like. But Tasha's biggest dream was still ahead. She wanted to help others who were where she had been lost, homeless, and full of fear. With the help of Williams Foundation, she began creating programs focused on education and technology access for homeless youth. She spoke at schools, community centers, and conferences, sharing her story and encouraging young people to believe in themselves. Her efforts caught the attention of city leaders and nonprofit organizations. They invited her to join panels, advisory boards, and committees focused on homelessness and youth development. Her voice became powerful not just because of her story, but because of her knowledge, passion, and commitment. One cold winter night, Tasha returned to the very park where she had once hidden behind a dumpster, terrified and alone. There, quietly feeling the cold air on her face, remembering the fear and hopelessness she had felt. But now she wasn't alone. She carried with her hope, strength, and a mission to make a difference. She thought about the man she had met on the bus, the CEO who believed in her when no one else did. William Carter had given her a chance. She had done the hard work to change her life. Looking at the city skyline, Tasha smiled. She was no longer just surviving. She was thriving. Her journey showed that a small act of kindness, paying someone's bus fare, could change lives forever. And Tasha was living proof of that truth.